I wasn't expecting him to show up that night. It was late, maybe a little after 10, and I was halfway through a reheated plate of pasta, half watching a basketball game I didn't care about. Just one of those quiet, nothing nights, until my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hey, it's Dylan. You still live off Riverside? It took me a second to place the name. Dylan, my best friend Marcus's older brother. We hadn't talked in over a year. Not since that weird Thanksgiving break when we all ended up back in town, and he got drunk enough to actually say something kind to me for once. I texted back, "Yeah, why?" He replied, "Can I crash with you tonight?" Long story. I'll explain when I get there. Now this is the part where most people would ask questions. But I didn't, because I knew Dylan. And I guess, deep down, I wanted to see him again. So I said, sure, door's unlocked. About 20 minutes later, I heard the knock anyway. I opened the door, and there he was. Same Dylan. A little scruffier, a little broader, wearing a black hoodie and that tired look he always had after a long drive. He was holding a small backpack and an oversized duffel, like he wasn't sure how long he'd be staying. "Hey," he said, voice low. "Hey," I echoed, stepping aside to let him in. The second he walked past me, it hit me again, how different he was from Marcus. Taller, quieter, way more reserved. And I'd be lying if I said I hadn't always noticed him a little more than I probably should have. He dropped his stuff by the couch and rubbed the back of his neck. "Sorry to drop in like this." "You're good," I said. "What happened?" He let out a long breath and sank onto the couch. "Got into it with my roommate. He's kind of an idiot. Been building up for a while." I sat down next to him. "So you just left?" "Pretty much." He paused. "Figured I'd cool off before I go back tomorrow." I nodded slowly. "You can stay here as long as you need." He looked over at me. "Thanks, man. Seriously." We sat there for a bit. The game on the TV filled the silence, but we weren't really watching it. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and I could see the tension in his shoulders. "You want a drink or something?" I asked. "You got beer?" I went to the fridge, grabbed two, and handed him one. We cleaned bottles without really thinking about it. "You still talk to Marcus?" he asked after a few sips. "Sometimes. Not much since he moved to Chicago." Dylan nodded. "Yeah, he mentioned that. Said you guys kind of drifted." "Guess so," I said. There was another stretch of quiet. This one felt heavier. Then Dylan said, "You ever think about those old nights when we'd all hang out in the garage after everyone else went to sleep?" I looked over at him. "Sometimes." He gave a half smile. That heater barely worked, and Marcus would always pass out first. "Yeah," I said, smiling too, "and you'd always end up talking with me till like 3 a.m. He didn't say anything for a second. Then, I liked those nights. I felt my heart pick up a little. Not racing, just more awake. Me too. He took a long drink, then leaned back, looking at the ceiling. "Feels weird being back in town. Tell me about it." For a while, we just sat like that, sipping beer, not saying much, but it wasn't awkward. It was familiar, comfortable even. And then, out of nowhere, he said, "You ever wonder why I never brought anyone around?" I looked at him. "Like girlfriends?" He nodded. "Or boyfriends?" I blinked. "Oh." He stared ahead, jaw tight. "I never told Marcus. Still haven't. Don't know how he'd react." "I think he'd be fine," I said quietly. Dylan turned to look at me then. "You? What about me? You surprised?" I shook my head. "No." That seemed to catch him off guard. "No? You think I didn't notice how you looked at me back then?" I said, trying to sound casual. He raised an eyebrow, a slow smirk forming. "You noticed?" "I wasn't exactly subtle either," I said. That made him laugh. Quiet and warm, the kind of laugh that made me feel 17 again. "Well," he said, "I guess we were both idiots." "Guess so." Another pause. Then, softer, "Still are?" I looked at him. Really looked. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't want to play it cool. Not tonight. We didn't say anything after that. Not for a while. I don't even remember what started playing on the TV. Some loud action movie. But neither of us was paying attention anymore. Dylan leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees, bottle dangling loosely from his fingers. You mind if I shower? Feels like I've been driving all day. Yeah, of course. Towels were in the cabinet by the sink, I said, standing up. As he headed to the bathroom, I sat there replaying what had just happened in my head. He'd basically come out to me. Not just that. He hinted that there had been something between us, even if it was unsaid. Back then, when we were both younger, less sure of who we were. The garage nights. The long talks. The way he'd always sit just a little too close. How I pretended not to notice, because I didn't want to make it weird with Marcus's brother. Now I wondered what would have happened if I had said something back then. I was still thinking about that when I heard the water shut off. A minute later, Dylan came out, towel around his waist, hair damp, shirtless. I froze. He must have noticed because he smirked a little. Sorry. Forgot to bring a change of clothes. No worries, I said quickly, looking away and then immediately glancing back, like an idiot. He walked over to his duffel and pulled out a pair of joggers. I tried to act normal, tried being the key word, but the way he casually dropped the towel facing away from me as he changed left my brain full of static. When he turned back, he was fully dressed again, hoodie pulled over his damp hair. You want the bed or the couch? I asked, clearing my throat. He looked at me. Which one are you taking? I figured I'd give you the bed. Couch is fine. He shook his head. Let's just share it. I blinked. You sure? He gave me a look. You afraid of me or something? No, I said quickly. Just didn't want to assume. Don't worry, he said. I don't bite. He said it like a joke, but something about the way he looked at me lingered. I grabbed some water, shut off the lights, and we both headed into my room. It was a small bed, full size, not exactly made for two grown men, but we didn't talk about that. He pulled off his hoodie again and climbed in, wearing just a t-shirt and those joggers. I got in beside him, facing the opposite way, because I wasn't sure how to do this. My heart was racing like it hadn't in years. For a while, we just lay there, no talking, just breathing. Then I felt it, his foot brushing mine under the blanket. I didn't pull away. A minute passed. Then I felt him shift closer. You still awake? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Yeah. You cold? A little. That was the excuse. He moved closer. I could feel the heat of his body now, the way the mattress dipped as he settled just behind me. His chest grazed my back, not pressed against me, but close enough to make it hard to think about anything else. I didn't move. Then his voice again. You ever think about those nights? I swallowed. Yeah. More than I probably should have. Same. There was a pause. I used to lie awake, he said, waiting for you to say something, wondering if I was imagining it. You weren't, I said quietly. He shifted again. Now I could feel his breath against my neck. Steady, a little uneven. Can I? He started, but didn't finish. I rolled over. We were face to face now, the dark room somehow making everything sharper, more intimate. Yeah, I said. Whatever it is, yeah. His hand found my side under the blanket. Warm, hesitant. Then he leaned in and kissed me. It wasn't perfect. It was slow, unsure, but real. His lips moved against mine like he was asking something without saying it. I kissed him back because I'd wanted to for years, because I wasn't 17 anymore, and he wasn't just Marcus's older brother. He was here, in my bed, kissing me like it mattered, and I was kissing him back like I meant it. When we finally pulled apart, he stayed close, foreheads almost touching. You good? He whispered. I nodded. Yeah. He gave a soft smile. Me too. We didn't do anything else that night. Just lay there, tangled up in quiet warmth, hands brushing, legs finding each other under the covers like they'd been waiting to do that all along. At some point, he fell asleep. I didn't. Not right away. I just listened to the sound of his breathing and wondered what the hell this meant now. Whatever it was, it didn't feel like a mistake. I woke up before him, not on purpose, just one of those early morning stirs where you don't know what time it is, but you can feel the weight of another body next to yours and your brain jolts a little. It took me a second to remember why the bed felt warmer, why there was a solid shape pressed against my side. Dylan. His arm was draped over my waist, relaxed and heavy. His face was buried against the back of my neck, his breath slow and warm against my skin. He was fully asleep. Peaceful. It was a version of him I don't think I'd ever seen before. Not guarded. Not sarcastic. Just still. I didn't move. Not for a long time. I just let myself feel it. The way his fingertips lightly curled around my shirt. The rise and fall of his chest. The subtle pressure of his knee resting against the back of mine. We'd kissed. That happened. And now he was here, in my bed, holding me like it was the most normal thing in the world. Eventually he stirred. His hand shifted slightly, then paused. I could tell the exact second he woke up. His breathing changed. Shit, he mumbled softly, his voice hoarse from sleep. I turned slightly. Morning. He blinked at me, surprised I was awake. Hey. We looked at each other for a second. Neither of us said anything. Then he asked, Was that okay last night? Yeah, I said immediately. It was. He exhaled like he'd been holding it in. Good. We lay there for a little longer, still wrapped up in the same blanket, like it would be weird to move too fast. Then he added, I didn't expect to. I wasn't planning to. I know, I said. Me neither. He nodded slowly, his eyes scanning my face. But I'm glad we did. I smiled. Me too. Eventually, we got up, made coffee, ate cereal out of the same mismatched bowls I'd had since college. It was quiet, but not tense. He moved around my apartment like he wasn't just some guest anymore, like he fit. At one point, while I was rinsing our bowls in the sink, he walked up behind me and put his hand on my back. Just a light touch, his fingers resting between my shoulder blades for a second too long to be casual. You've got a nice place, he said. Thanks, I said, trying to act normal while every part of me was buzzing. You always live alone? Pretty much, he nodded. It suits you. I turned around, and he was standing there, close enough that I could feel the heat between us again. He didn't lean in. He didn't kiss me. But he looked at me like he might. Instead, he just said, I should probably head out soon. I nodded, even though I didn't want him to. Just need to check in at my place. Maybe deal with the roommate drama. You want me to drive you? I've got my car, he said, then paused. But I could use a reason to come back. That hit me in the chest. You don't need a reason, I said. Just come back. He smiled, soft, genuine. I will. When he finally did leave, he hesitated at the door. One hand on the handle, the other resting at his side. Then he looked back at me and said, I meant it, you know. Last night. Me too. And then he left. I stood there for a while after the door closed, staring at the spot he'd just been, wondering if this was going to be a one-time thing, or the beginning of something I hadn't let myself hope for in a long time. I didn't hear from him that night. I told myself that was normal, that he had stuff to deal with, roommate drama, whatever that actually meant. But still, by the time it hit midnight and I was sitting in the same spot on the couch where we'd talked just the night before, my phone untouched beside me, I couldn't stop checking the screen every 10 minutes. I didn't want to be that guy, the one who clings, the one who overthinks. But I was anyway. He texted me the next morning, Dylan, sorry, yesterday got messier than I thought. Can I call you later? I replied right away, yeah, of course. But later didn't come until close to 10 p.m. I answered on the first ring. Hey, I said. Hey, he said back, sounding tired. You okay? He sighed. Yeah, just everything kind of exploded. What happened? He explained it all in a kind of rushed, low voice. The way you talk when you're pacing, when you've told the story to yourself too many times. Turns out the roommate wasn't just a roommate. They'd been spending time on and off for months. Complicated, no labels, lots of tension. Dylan had finally ended it, and the guy didn't take it well. He said I was leading him on, Dylan muttered, that I used him. Were you? I asked softly. There was a pause. Maybe at first, but I told him months ago I didn't see it going anywhere. He just stuck around. You told him before we... Yeah, he cut in, long before. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. Okay. I didn't want you to think I was rebounding or anything, he said, his voice suddenly softer. What happened with you? Last night, that was different. I leaned back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. I know. He was quiet for a second, then said, I've been thinking about it all day. Me too. Another pause. Then, can I see you again? You can come over now if you want. He didn't even hesitate. I'll be there in 20. When he showed up, he looked different, not in a bad way. Just like someone who hadn't slept, whose mind was still stuck in a loop. Hoodie on, baseball cap pulled low, that same duffel bag slung over his shoulder. He didn't say much when I opened the door, just stepped inside, dropped his stuff, and hugged me. It wasn't a casual hug. It was the kind that makes your arms lock around someone before your brain can catch up. I'm sorry if I made this messy, he murmured near my ear. You didn't. We stood there like that for a while. Not talking, just holding. Eventually, he pulled back. Can I stay again tonight? You don't have to ask. He gave me a tired smile. Thanks. We didn't head straight to bed. Instead, we sat on the couch, legs stretched out, some late-night food show playing in the background while he filled me in on the mess at his place. You ever feel like you're supposed to know what you want by now? He asked. All the time. He looked over at me. Do you? I hesitated. Right now? Yeah. I want you here. He didn't say anything at first. Then he nodded, eyes soft. Same. Later, in bed, he was quieter than the night before. Not distant, just reflective. He curled into me naturally, like we'd done it 100 times. No tension, no hesitation. I didn't expect this, he said softly. Me neither. But I don't want to screw it up. You won't, I said. Just don't disappear. He smiled, forehead resting lightly against mine. I won't. We didn't kiss that night. Not because we didn't want to, but because there was something deeper in the silence. Something that didn't need anything else. Just two people, tangled under a blanket, figuring out what came next. We fell into a rhythm after that. He didn't move in, not officially, but his toothbrush lived in my bathroom now. A spare hoodie hung off the back of my desk chair. And most nights, around 10 or 11, he'd show up with takeout or a six-pack or nothing at all except that look that said, "Can I be here?" And every time, I said yes. We didn't talk about what we were. Not directly, but there was this quiet understanding between us. He'd sit close on the couch and press his knee against mine, and I'd let my hand rest on his thigh when he leaned into me during a movie. It was simple, easy, until it wasn't. It started on a Sunday night. I'd made dinner. Nothing fancy, just pasta and garlic bread. He showed up late, a little more tense than usual. Didn't say much, just dropped his keys on the counter and kissed me on the cheek like it was automatic now. You good? I asked. He nodded, but his eyes didn't meet mine. Dinner was quiet. Halfway through eating, he set down his fork and said, Marcus called me today. That stopped me. Yeah? He asked if I'd been seeing anyone. I paused. What'd you say? Dylan leaned back in his chair, rubbing his hand over his jaw. I said no, that it was just me, doing my thing. He didn't press. I nodded slowly, even though it stung more than I wanted it to. He's your brother, I said. You don't owe him a play-by-play. He looked at me then. I just didn't know what to call this. I exhaled. You could have said you were seeing someone. I didn't want to say it wrong. That landed heavier than he probably intended. He saw it too. His expression softened. I didn't mean that, the way it sounded. I know, I said. It's fine. But it wasn't, really. We finished dinner without saying much more. He helped me wash the dishes, drying them with a dish towel while I stacked plates. Everything felt a little too quiet. Later, we sat on the couch. Some dumb action movie was on, but neither of us was watching it. We were sitting close, but not touching. I'm not ashamed, he said finally, out of nowhere. I looked over at him. I just don't know how to talk about this stuff yet. Not with him. Not with most people. I get it, I said. He shifted, turning to face me more fully. It's not about you. It's about me not being ready to explain something I don't fully understand yet. Dylan, I said quietly, I'm not asking you to define it. I'm just here. He reached for my hand then, held it in his lap. I don't want you to think I'm hiding you. You're not. But I don't want to be the guy who makes you feel small. You don't, I said. But I'm also not going to lie and say it didn't sting. He nodded, eyes down. I'll get there, he said. I just need a little time. I squeezed his hand. Take it. That night we didn't sleep wrapped up in each other like usual. We lay side by side, space between us, but his hand stayed tangled in mine under the blanket. And somehow, that felt more honest than anything else we could have done. Things shifted after that. Not in a dramatic, crashing kind of way. More like the way a song changes keys halfway through. Subtle. Noticeable. Still the same tune, just different. He came over less for a few days. Said he had stuff to handle. Work, errands, calling his mom back. I didn't push. I didn't want to crowd him. But the space? I felt it. One night, I texted him, "You good?" He replied 2 hours later, "Yeah, just in my head tonight. Miss you, though." That was something. Then, out of nowhere, he showed up on a Tuesday. I was on the couch, eating leftover Thai food, trying to convince myself that I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes. Then, the door buzzed. When I opened it, he was standing there holding a plastic grocery bag and looking like he hadn't slept well. "Hey," he said. "Hey, I got snacks." He came in, dropped the bag on the coffee table, chips, cookies, chocolate milk like we were kids, and then just sat down and exhaled hard. I sat next to him. "You okay?" He didn't answer right away. Then, "Marcus wants me to come stay with him for a bit. Up north." I blinked. "Oh, just for a week or two. Says I need a reset. Get out of the city for a while." I tried to keep my voice steady. "Are you going?" "I don't know." We sat in silence for a while. The kind that creaks. Then he said, "I told him I've been staying with a friend, that I'm seeing someone. Kind of." I looked over. He asked if it was a girl, Dylan said. I said no. I froze. He didn't freak out, he added. He just said, "Okay," like it was no big deal. My chest tightened. "That's good." "Yeah." We were quiet again. "I wanted to tell you in person," he said. "Because I know the other night was weird. I made it weird." "You didn't," I said. "I did," he said. "But I don't want to be the guy who's halfway in. That's not fair to you." I felt something warm crawl up the back of my neck. "I'm not asking you to be anything you're not ready for." "I know," he said. "But I think I'm getting there." He reached for my hand, like he needed to make sure I wasn't pulling away. I didn't. "I'm not great at this," he said, "but I want to be." "You don't have to be perfect," I told him. "You just have to be honest." He gave me this look, like something in him relaxed, like he didn't have to keep his armor up. "I'm gonna go," he said, "but not because I don't want to be here. I just need to clear my head, figure some stuff out." I nodded. "When do you leave?" "Tomorrow." "Okay. I'll text. Call. If you want me to." "I do." He leaned in, then, slow, careful, and kissed me. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't needy. It was grounding, like he was saying, "This matters. I'll be back." When we pulled apart, I touched his face without thinking. brushed a thumb over his cheek. "You sure this is what you need?" He nodded. "It's not about getting away from you. It's about figuring out how to come back better." That hit me deep. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. That night, he stayed over. We didn't sleep together. We didn't even really cuddle the way we usually did. We just lay there, shoulders touching, breathing in sync. At one point, I looked over and said, "I'm gonna miss you." And he said, "I already do." The apartment felt different without him. Not dramatically. His stuff wasn't scattered around. His name wasn't on the lease. But still, it was in the little things. No hoodie tossed over the chair. No wet towel draped on the bathroom door. No low voice asking, "You want anything from the store?" Like we were already living in some soft version of something real. I tried to keep busy. Work helped. So did late night walks and way too many DoorDash orders. But every time I passed the bed, or the couch, or even just saw his toothbrush still sitting by the sink, I felt it. He was gone. Not permanently, but the absence sat heavy. He texted me the second night. "Dylan, made it. Marcus says hi. It's weird being back here." I waited a few minutes before replying, trying not to seem too eager. "Me? Weird in a good way or bad?" Dylan. "Good, I think. Just quiet. Gives me too much time to think." Me. Thinking's not the worst thing. Dylan. Depends what you're thinking about. Me. What are you thinking about? Dylan. You. It was stupid how much that one word hit me. He called me the next day. And the day after that. Some calls were short. Just check-ins. Others stretched past midnight, like the way we used to talk in the garage back in high school. On the fifth night, I heard it in his voice, something softer, clearer. "I told Marcus everything," he said. I blinked. "Everything?" "Yeah. About you. About us. He asked if I was happy. What'd you say?" I said, "Yeah, I am. I'm figuring stuff out, but being with you makes it feel less scary." I sat back, staring at the ceiling, my chest tight in the best way. "That's good," I said. He hesitated. "You still want this? After the weird starts and the space and me leaving?" "I never stopped wanting it," I said. "Even before we started." He was quiet for a moment. "Then, I think I'm ready." Ready for what? For this. For not running. For letting people see it. For calling it what it is. I didn't respond right away, because I didn't want to ruin the moment by saying something that sounded too scripted. But I didn't need to. He continued. "I want to come back. Soon. If that's still okay." "It's more than okay," I said. "Think you could pick me up from the station?" "I'll be there early," he laughed. "I knew you'd say that." When we hung up, I just sat there on the couch. Phone resting on my chest, staring at the ceiling like maybe it could tell me what to do with this feeling swelling in my chest. For once, I didn't overthink it. I let myself be happy. He stepped off the train wearing that same black hoodie he always wore when he didn't want to be noticed. But I noticed him anyway. His eyes found me through the crowd, and for a second, it felt like everything just paused, like the rest of the station went silent. Then he smiled, and I knew we were good. He walked toward me, duffel bag slung over his shoulder, hands shoved in his pockets like he wasn't sure if I'd hug him or just say hey. I didn't say anything. I pulled him in. He dropped the bag and wrapped his arms around me like it had been longer than a week. Like the space between us hadn't just been physical, but emotional, and he was closing it all in one motion. "I miss this," he said against my shoulder. "Me too." When we pulled apart, he looked at me like he wanted to say something big, but didn't know how. So I said it for him. "Come home!" He exhaled like I'd just given him permission to breathe. Back at my apartment, things fell into place quickly. His bag hit the floor by the couch again. His hoodie found its way back onto the chair. His toothbrush was still where he left it. But it was different now. He was different. There was no tiptoeing. No hesitation. That night, when we sat on the couch, he didn't wait for the right moment. He kissed me like he'd been holding it in all week. like he didn't want to waste another second pretending this was casual. We moved to the bedroom without a word. We didn't rush. There was no performance, no expectation. It was slow and real, and the kind of quiet that felt thick with meaning. Hands finding familiar places, mouths relearning each other. I remember the way his fingers trembled slightly when he ran them down my side. I remember the way he said my name, once, soft and careful, like it was something sacred. After, we didn't speak for a while. We just lay there, legs tangled, sheets a mess, our breathing slowly settling in sync. Eventually, he whispered, "I want this." I turned to face him. Yeah, and I don't want to hide it anymore. He paused, then added, "From anyone." I reached over and brushed a bit of hair off his forehead. "You don't have to rush. We're not on a clock." "I know," he said, "but I'm tired of pretending like this is temporary." I nodded. "Okay." He smiled. That kind of smile you only get from someone who's finally made peace with what they want. And this time, when he curled into me under the blanket, he didn't leave space between us. A week later, he brought over a box of books and said, "Might as well leave these here, right?" That's how it started. A few weeks after that, he was cooking in my kitchen like it was his. Marcus came to visit, and we didn't lie about who Dylan was to me. We didn't dodge the details. We just were. And it was good. Better than good. We didn't become perfect. We still had days where one of us shut down or said the wrong thing or needed space, but we showed up anyway. We kept choosing each other, and every now and then when we were laying in bed or brushing our teeth side by side or making breakfast in our underwear, he'd glance at me and say, "Still not over that first night. Neither was I.